Good morning, ladies and gents. Welcome to Friday's stream, last stream of the week. This marks 2 weeks of Mr. Businessman, the 10th streaming day, which is pretty crazy. It feels like we've got, if you can hear bells in the back, it's the cat again. It feels like we've been doing this forever now, to be honest. Although I don't know how you feel about it, but the second week has felt a lot faster than the first week. So the first week felt like it dragged and dragged and dragged and dragged. The second week feels like it's got a lot faster, and I think that's probably because we've got more into a routine that we were talking about, which is good. So hopefully I find you all well and eager to get into some end of sort of spec stuff. So this is the last new topic essentially of marketing, and then we're going to go back and start our revision. So don't forget the importance of the revision type of things. There's a hell of a lot of people who will have forgot stuff. There are people who don't necessarily join courses until after the fact and things like that. And us living in these crazy times, we need to take any opportunity we can get really to learn a bit more, don't we? And sort of make sure that we're ready to just jump back into it as and when is needed. All right, so we're going to do another exam question today. I'm going to do a couple of videos just on exam prep as well, just little extra ones that I'm going to release. I've got a couple of extra videos planned as well. I'm going to do one today, but I probably won't release it today. I might release it over the weekend or something. And then, yeah, new week, new start. Now, a couple of people have been asking as well about the holidays and things like that, and how this is going to work for over the Easter break. Obviously, as I said, if you're watching this in the future, it doesn't really apply to you, but I've had a couple of people get in contact and just say, like, are you going to be continuing the stream over the break? Because it should be the Easter holidays as of Monday. And the answer is yes. I am going to continue. I'm going to continue as if it's just a normal working day, because realistically, because of this lockdown, it's just the same as normal, isn't it? That doesn't mean people have to treat it the same, but I'm thinking, really, if people are looking to have a holiday from being stuck inside the house, I mean, what else are you going to be doing? So I don't know if it's an excuse to do even less than you're doing currently. I don't know, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be continuing as I would have done, and just getting stuff done for you. So I'm just looking at that cat to see if it can open that door. It's doing it. It's doing it. It's not a ghost. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue on, and we're going to get stuff done. Just the same as if it was a normal working day, as it is for me. All right. So here we go then. Let's get into it. So today we're going to be looking at some new technology, and we've talked a little bit about this already. The changes to new technology that's happened over the last couple of years. But it's important to actually physically get it down, because there's some quite important stuff to get in the booklets as well for this one. Okay, so let's start off now. I'm going to start off today by giving you a little bit of work to do after the stream. And it's not loads, don't worry. But it's to go to this page, all right, this YouTube channel. I'll link it in the description, and just have a look at it. It is it's an advert, a YouTube advert, that has sort of an interactive element to it. So there's some questions in the book about, like what did you think about it and stuff like that. But just have a little look at it. It's not the best acted thing you've ever seen, but it's pretty. It's a weird way of doing an advert, but it's an interesting one. So have a look at it and see what you think. Write some stuff down about it. It'll look in context, but yeah, spend a minute or two after the stream and just have a look at it. All right. Okay, so what we're going to have a look at today is we're going to have a look at explain how new technology is used in marketing, including the role of digital media, social media, e-tailing, and m-commerce. Explain the impacts of new technology on existing businesses such as high street retailers. Evaluate the impact of new technology on marketing activities of businesses and its stakeholders. So it's not really any different than we usually do every day, but we have a look at a topic and then we have a look at the stakeholders and that and how it affects them. So let's get straight into it, okay? So what is, e-commerce and e-tailing? Now, e-commerce, short for electronic commerce, is trading products or services using computer networks such as the internet. Now, with that, you may have heard of e-commerce. You may have heard of it used. It's basically just using it's internet sort of selling. So big hitters in this industry, people like Amazon, but most companies will have an internet element to them now. Some of them utilize it more effectively than others, but some of them, the USP is just based on their ability to use e-commerce. Amazon would have never have been as successful as they are doing, the global giant. As they would have done if they'd have been a brick and mortar store, because it was just never going to happen. You can't do what they do. The only people who try and compete with these people as well is because I think everybody's kind of accepted that Amazon kind of are just the dom, particularly Play.com. Play.com was a big competitor to Amazon. If you couldn't get it on Amazon, you had to look on Play. And that fell over. I think it's called Rooticon or something now. It's still around. If you go on Play.com, if you Google Play.com, you can have a look at what it is now, and it still is, a retailer, an internet retailer, but it's nowhere near the kind of dominance that Play was a genuine. It was one place that you didn't go if you couldn't get it from Amazon. So it's a strange one that no one's really trying to take Amazon on, but I think it's due to the logistics that Amazon have got. They're just so crazy dominant. You've got the warehousing is brilliant. The efficiencies are amazing. Capacity utilization is off the charts. The technology that these people use, and we're not going to be talking about new technology as Amazon technology, but maybe I'll do an extra video on Amazon and just maybe that's something I can do as well for you. A little a couple of interesting businesses. But as I said, so if you've got any ideas for businesses or for videos that you want to specifically see, give me a shout, and I'll whip something together for you, because I've got a couple of ideas for certain little sort of off series, little things of Mr. Businessman, but sort of little off things, not just normal lessons, but other things as well. So how can a business utilize the internet? So there's a couple of things, isn't it? Let's get into it. So first of all, internet purchasing. Now, internet purchasing is something which most of us do regularly, especially in lockdown mode as we are at the minute. We're the only place we can really do it. It says this is 2019's most recent Office for National Statistics data on the subject, and it says 87% of all adults use the internet daily or almost every day in 2019. 87%. That's interesting, isn't it? Now, have a think about it. Who do you think is the 13% who aren't using it? I would think extremely young children, and I'm talking extremely young, and extremely old people. Okay. There will be some anomalies. There will be some middle-aged people. There will be some teenagers who choose not to use the internet, but it will be few and far between. The average consumer will be using the internet regularly, and we are going to lose that generation of people not using the internet. I think internet access became a human right under the EU thing for human rights recently, and I think we're learning more and more how important internet access is. The fact we're doing this now, the fact that we have an ability to still communicate with people in these crazy times, it alleviates anxiety. It can, of course, create anxiety and can have a lot of negative impacts, but there's a hell of a lot of positive stuff that it can do as well, isn't there? So in 2019, 61% of households without the internet did not feel that they needed the internet. Now let's look at that, because it can sound confusing. 61% of the 13%. All right. So there was still a 39% of households without the internet did feel that they did need it. So that's interesting, isn't it? So there's still a small demographic of people who do want the internet but still don't have access to it, and that's probably because of socioeconomic conditions and things like that, and people just not having the money to be able to afford it. In 2019, for the first time, more than half of adults aged 65 and over shopped online at 54%. Interesting. So we've still got, and I think that's where that demographic's leading, isn't it? That's where that little demographic demographics coming from is the fact that it would make sense that the older generation, and I'm not talking about 65, I'm talking about, old in terms of like 80s and up. Because that's another thing, isn't it? That's changing demographics. The age of people, when old people now aren't old, are they? 50 used to be old, but now it's not old, is it? 60 used to be old, but I think 80 is the new 60. So you've got to think about it like that. I think a lot of people are becoming more savvy towards the internet and thinking, I'm going to need this, or it's useful to me, and things like that. People who would have never have used it. My granddad, who is like adamant that he would have never have used the internet. He has broadband now. He doesn't use it for the internet. He uses it for Netflix. But like he was adamant. Oh no, never for me. No, he's not. And he's 73, something like that. I think 70 might be a little bit. 73, 75, something like that. So he's what I would consider old. But even he's got Netflix now. He's got broadband, which is crazy. You never would have thought he'd seen the day when he has it. So people are becoming more tech savvy and things like that. The percentage of adults who make video calls or voice calls over the internet has more than trebled over the past decade. I think this data will go through the roof this year. I think everyone's doing it, aren't they? And in 2019, 7% of adults suffered fraudulent debit and credit card use from the internet over the last 12 months. Interesting one. I've been a victim of an online scam, and the only thing I was done though is there is a website called Boomerang Games. Where it was kind of like a rental service where you would pay a monthly fee and they would send you out video games. It was pretty good, and their servers got hacked, and someone bought, I think it was about 50 quid's worth of phone vouchers, like top-up phone vouchers, and put them on my account, and I only clocked it by mistake. That's one thing. Another Mr. Businessman top tip: check your bank statements. Even if you don't think, check them occasionally. Just have a look down them and make sure, do I recognise that? What's that? Because I didn't, and it was purely chance that I didn't even, and they did it with such a small amount of money that I wouldn't have clocked it either, which was clever. But I realised, got in touch with the bank, and they sorted it for me. But yeah, it happens. So it is becoming an issue. It's becoming an issue more and more for people now, isn't it? In terms of this. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what other things we can do with them in a second. But before we do, sales on the internet are increasing dramatically each year. To what extent will this form of distribution take the place over the high street? Now, this is an important point, not only for you guys as students, business students, but as potential business leaders, because all of you will be working in a business very, very soon. Okay. And it can be for you, it can be for other people, it can be public sector, it can be private sector, but you will be working in businesses, most of which will have some kind of high street presence, or most of them would have had a high street presence in the past. So the question is now, have you got the ideas, have you got the sort of the brain power to come up with an idea of how you're going to join these companies and help them be successful despite a massively changing external environment, which is completely against the high street? How many people watching this now actually go to the high street? How many people, and do you actually buy anything from them? Or do you just go for a walk round? Because personally, I like to have a walk around the high street. That's one of the things I'm missing about being in, is just going and having a walk. I like to have a walk into town, have a wander around. I very rarely buy anything though. I might buy a drink, something like that, but I don't buy anything massive. And if I'm going to buy any big purchases, what do? Go into the shop, have a look at them, mess around with them, go on your phone and find it for cheaper online and get it delivered home. Well, this is the problem, isn't it? So one of the big things that the high street is still king of is convenience. The fact you can walk into a shop and buy something today is amazingly convenient, and a lot of people are willing to pay a premium for that. And why are we paying a premium? Well, we're paying a premium because they've got all those different costs, those fixed costs, rent, bigger insurance. We get a lot more things stolen and things like that. In high street shops, you've got a lot more staff to pay. In terms of actual physical staff in the shop, but the big ones rent, really, that other places don't. If Amazon build a new warehouse, then they can build it in the middle of nowhere, really, as long as they've got decent links to be able to get staff and just staff to the place, then they don't need to worry about customers because they're going to be, they've got to worry about more about the sort of the road links and things like that, haven't they? Than anything else. They don't have to worry about getting customers to them because everybody comes in on the internet. So it's a difficult one. Is the high street going to die? Well, the high street is dying. Is it savable? I think it is. I think personally, I think what we need to do to fix this high street thing is we need to make them more into showrooms for online businesses. I think that would be more sensible. Have less staff, have less stock, have less convenience. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but make it less convenient for people. Make it so that you go, okay, well, I'm going to go into Argos, and you can go and have a look at some Lego, or you can go and have a look at some, have a look at an Xbox, and you can order it in store, but you can't take it away today, and we'll deliver it next day. If you could get the kind of infrastructure that Amazon has got consistently with other businesses, there's no reason why you couldn't be successful at that. Are you not? Yeah, it would be annoying if you couldn't get it, but you probably just pre-order things and things like that. So points for the high street. We've definitely got the convenience aspect. We've still got the fact that there is still a hell of a lot of people who don't have... remember, 13% is still a lot of people who don't have internet access, either by choice or they said like nearly 50% or just over 50% still wanted the internet. So we've still not got a lot of people... We've still got a lot of people disconnected from the internet, so maybe we've still got need for that. And we've still got the idea that people like going to the high street. People, it's an experience. There's still something to do as well, isn't it? And I don't know about you, but in terms of pester power and in terms of, buying things on the fly and just deciding on the day, I'm going to buy this, I do a hell of a lot less than that on the internet. Because it makes me think about what's in my basket. So impulse purchasing on the internet is a lot less likely than if you could just in a shop and thought, I'm a bit hungry, I'll buy this. You wouldn't think, I'm a bit hungry, so I'll order this pizza for next week. It's probably not going to happen, is it? Okay, let's move on. So let's have a little look at e-commerce then. So what are the big benefits for it? You've got a little space in your packs for these. International trading can reach a global market, and this has been something that we've not mentioned eBay yet. eBay is a big one, isn't it? And eBay is an amazing opportunity for a lot of people. People like you, go and start an eBay business. There's massive opportunities to get stuff out there. It's so easy to be able to send stuff now. Maybe not in lockdown. Maybe it's a little bit less difficult. Although... I've not been finding that difficult. I've not been finding it that much different than any other time. I've not really been using eBay, but the stuff I have bought online has come very quickly, even though it said there'll be a delay. And he says removes barriers to entry. Only need distribution abroad, and UPS, different languages, websites, and things like this. So it gives you an opportunity to really exploit foreign markets. Because if you've got distribution abroad, then do you need to operate from abroad yourself, or do you even need to have distribution yourself? You could potentially marry up with a foreign distribution company and get them to deal with your distribution overseas. So there would be the cat's going mad in the background. That would be an opportunity, and that's what a lot of companies do. They don't bother going and opening the Mexican branch. They just find a Mexican distribution company who will deal with the distribution for them and open up Mexico, Amazon Mexico, but with another one. I mean, Amazon would probably be an anomaly because they would probably do it themselves as it's Amazon. But Ryan's Chocolate Company, why bother opening Ryan's Chocolate Company Mexico when I can just ship the stuff over? If it's easy, if it's efficient, if it's cheap enough to do, why not? The business does not need to be physically close to the customer. They can locate away from the customers. Rural areas can still be successful. Website design businesses and things like this. So if you are a service provider, fantastic opportunity for you to go out into the middle of nowhere, or you can do it from home. I mean, what about like this? I could run this as a successful business. Probably not just giving away stuff for free like this, but there's loads and loads of different opportunities online for online tutoring and all these different things. I could run it from here. I can have one-on-one conversations with people. I can do the things from here. And I'm not paying those business rates. I'm not paying, crazy amounts of rent to be in the middle of High Street because I don't need to be. And same for Amazon and people like that. There's an Amazon warehouse very close to where I live. And that's just on an industrial estate. And it's a clever idea because they're not going to be paying anywhere near what HMV would be paying in town or for a game or, Topshop or anything like that. and they're getting all that space and all that opportunity, and they've got the industrial links to different places and things like that. It's a brilliant opportunity for a lot of businesses. It says, well, longer opening hours. We can have 24 hours a day shopping. Not closed on bank holidays, could increase sales and things like that. Okay, now let's just stop a second because we've got to think about some of the negatives, and we're probably going to talk about these in a second. But we are going to talk about them in a second. But I wanted to specifically think about employees here because we've talked about HR recently. What about the negatives for employees? What about the fact that there's going to be added pressure? Have you seen the stuff on the news at the minute about people kicking off the fact that they're not able to take the time off because they feel like they're going to get pressured by these big companies? It wasn't Amazon who was doing it, although they have been seen in the past as really negative things. I'll link in the description again another link to... I think it was Panorama who did one. I think we watched it in class, actually. But an amazing thing to do with Amazon and how they treat the staff and how it's crazy, the job design and what they're doing. But there was someone on the news yesterday who was talking about the fact that they weren't able to do the social distancing thing. They weren't physically able to do it because they were sort of the way that the place was designed. It wasn't 6 meters apart. So was it 6 meters or 2 meters? I don't know. Well, it's decent a space. You couldn't have decent space across it anywhere. So it is an issue because if it's 24 hours open online, then it's 24 hours open. There will have to be people there doing the jobs, which is fine. There's opportunities for people to have jobs, but it is big expectation, isn't it? Can reduce high street shops, online clothing, reducing costs, internet banking, this kind of stuff. Is there any need for these high street shops? And remember, efficiencies lead to lack of jobs. So we're always trying to get more efficient, but if we're always trying to get more efficient, we're automatically leading to less jobs. And less jobs mean more unemployment. More unemployment means we need to come up with something for these people to do. And there's lots of different things that they're thinking about at the minute. This universal income is another thing that they're trying to do or whatever. It's not something that the government have decided to do yet. But in the future, we might have to pay people to consume. It's an argument. Benefit to customers, ease of access, more choice, easier to compare prices. Yeah. Problem for businesses, how easy it is to compare prices for things like Amazon, isn't it? Drawbacks, increased competition. You've got this infinite competition all across the globe. Harder to make the business stand out. Fewer barriers to entry. There is fewer barriers to entry, and this can be a disadvantage because it's easy to set up. Now, the only barrier to entry, which usually isn't seen as a barrier to entry, but it definitely is in the internet, is the extreme reputation connection. You won't even know about these companies. You can't just walk down the street and happen to see a shop and go, oh, look, that might be a shop I'm interested in. I'll go and have a look. You will never know about these companies because they're going to have websites which you'll never go on, you'll never find. And you have to have the sort of buy-in from the search engine providers and stuff like that, don't you? In terms of like Google and that, you can pay them to get higher up the list, but a lot of companies won't have the money to, and you won't be able to compete with some crazy people like Amazon and people like that. It says harder to make the business stand out. Reliance upon delivery companies, big one. I don't know if you remember. Suppliers having a big effect on you as well. The big one that I always remember is KFC recently when they tried to change supplier of chicken and ran out of chicken. KFC, no chicken. Yeah, damaged the company irreparably. It damaged the reputation of them and it lost a lot of sales for them in that amount of time, and it shows what can be done. Danger from hackers and viruses. As I said, I've been affected myself, but you can have a look at the websites to find out whether your emails have been hacked and things like that, haven't they? Costs of updating virus software, especially high for costs for banks. Loss of customer loyalty if problems do occur. People get naffed off. It's particularly important right this second for people to have access to the internet. Stable connections, things like video games and things like that are really, really important to people at the minute because there's nothing else to do. What if you didn't have Netflix? What, you're in isolation and you have no internet? That's craziness. You need your internet at the minute. It's really, really especially important to people. So, big one for customers. Drawback though. Customers who do not use IT, older people excluded from the method. Waiting for goods can be frustrated or not right when it arrives. I have to say though, depending on most companies now, they're getting pretty good at this. They're not a big one of... they're not freaking out about this. Most companies are pretty hot on getting the right things at the right time to the right place. And yes, we know about old people, but we have discussed them slightly. All right. Okay, new forms of technology then. So as technology has improved, as the internet has become more readily available, there's been a significant rise in digital media. So the definition for it is the promotion of products or brands via one or more forms of electronic media. Can you list ways a firm can digitally market themselves? Well, a couple of them are here. So interactive web adverts, so something that you can physically get involved in, little games and stuff on the website, YouTube channels or YouTube Mr. Businessman, and tell your friends, subscribe, tell your family every day, 10 to 11. Except weekends, when he just puts absolute nonsense up. And QR codes. This is one that we've not talked about, but QR codes, they're like little square things. They have little things where you sort of scan it with your phone and you can get linked. Never really been that big, QR codes, and it surprised me because it's a cool little idea. Web banners, just the way you design them, sort of like you can click through them. Google sponsored ads and social media. Now, we're going to talk about social media to a little bit, but I don't want people to get really pent up in their mind about social media, about, oh yeah, well I can do social media because I've got a Twitter account, or I can do social media because I've got a Facebook account or an Instagram account or whatever. That's not the point. There's a big difference between being able to successfully market a brand online using social media and just knowing how to send your gran a picture of you being on holiday. It's not the same. So don't underestimate it. And when people are going for jobs at the minute, they say, oh, do you know how to use social media? And they'll go, yeah, but they don't mean, when businesses are talking about social media, they don't mean, yeah, do you know how to use social media in that respect? They say, do you know how to market using social media? And it's a difficult thing to do. It's a really difficult thing to do because there's so much competition out there. So let's have a little look at these ones. So social media, how can the following social media be used for marketing? For each one, as I said, remember this is changing all the time, but just a couple of ones that we've picked out. Facebook, we can have pages. One thing that I haven't bothered with this, I thought stuff that I'm not doing more than one thing. You can have YouTube, that's it. Sponsored links in terms of pay Facebook. I hate Facebook advertising. It's really aggravating. It's one thing. I don't know if I would. I probably wouldn't, but I think Facebook should include some kind of, like YouTube have, which I hate as well. That's why I've demonetized this. I don't make any money off this. Even if I did, it'd probably be about 8p. But I can't stand it where they've put in different adverts on it. And Facebook's absolutely rife with them. I can't stand that either. So communicate directly with customers. Sainsbury's, for example, has gained a reputation for comical responses. They have a little jab back at people and it's fun. So it can give a little bit of reputation, a little bit of sort of personality to your brand. Good opportunity to do funny things online. Especially with April Fools, it's just gone. We've not really done anything this year for April Fools. Because it's not really the time, is it? People are living in crazy times, and I think as well with the April Fool's thing, a lot of people probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between fact and fiction at the minute, and I don't think that's sensible, and that shows what we've done in the last couple of years. If you saw something crazy happening, you'd have gone, "Oh, that's crazy," but at the minute, we're like, "Well, that could happen." Yeah. I'll probably just accept it. It's insane. What about Twitter? Twitter is not something I've massively got involved with, but I do know it's a really good way of getting in touch with companies. If you ever got a problem, nip onto Twitter. You can usually get a response pretty quickly. Hashtag trends, so getting involved with that. Celebrity endorsements and communicate directly with customers. As I said, very effective way of doing it. Instagram, again, something which I'm not a massive user of myself, but you can share posters, you can share marketing ideas, you can share click-throughs, you can get in that personality thing again, but just get that connection to your customers. Remember, it's all about customer loyalty, about relationship marketing, about developing that one-on-one relationship to make sure your consumers feel like you really care about them and they'll buy more and more stuff off you, which would be nice. And Pinterest, we've got pictures of the new products, we've got share posters, images, and that kind of stuff. So let's move straight on. Opportunities and threats for these ones. Now, with this one, we've got free advertising and an annoyance to users. Yeah, it is annoying. I've just said that. As I said, it really frustrates me. opportunities. Let's have a look at the opportunities. It says mass usage, lots to customers' opportunities, mass broadcasting range. But by the same token, and remember this is your AO3, AO4, hard to hit specific target markets. So we've got access to all these different people, which is brilliant, but it's really difficult to be really specific. Facebook try, but I get absolutely all sorts through. I get advertisements for absolutely everything. You think, well, how have you found me as a target demographic for this? Place becoming less relevant. So you can get things from all over the place now. Also, as well, exposure on a larger scale. So this could be good or bad though, because remember, the bigger the company, the harder they fall if they get things. Social media can be very damaging to companies if as soon as something really bad happens, you naff someone off, or even if it hasn't, if someone just wants to be negative about your company, do you go online and say really positive reviews about things? No. Do you go online and say really negative reviews about people? Yes. Go on Amazon right now and you'll find loads of negative reviews on things. I don't know who's doing this, but it seems to be something quite consistent. But I don't see many people going, oh yeah, it's fantastic that. Oh, it was brilliant. Oh yeah, really, really good. Opportunities for local smaller businesses especially. It's an opportunity to actually go toe-to-toe with these bigger companies, isn't it? You kind of have a level playing field to an extent with them. But remember, it's the same idea as one of the negatives of the high street is the fact that, or the lack of the high street is the fact that you won't actually, people won't come across you by mistake. Even if you're doing loads of social media, you're only going to be linked to your likes, your followers, your friends, their friends. There isn't really much else you can do to get the word out there except doing classical advertising. Benefits of niche businesses, can target groups and communities. A good one, yeah, you can get, it's a really good opportunity for little niches, finding little Facebook groups or Pinterest posts and things like that. People who post little individual things that you're interested in. This is something that's fantastic for the internet, isn't it? It makes little niche communities a lot more accessible to people and a lot more, you might be really into, I don't know, broccoli, and I bet if you go on YouTube, there might be videos on YouTube. Facebook, there is a broccoli appreciation society, and about how amazing broccoli is. I don't know, someone should try that. Go on Facebook and have a look if there is. But threats to it as well can be relied upon, can be over relied upon, and I think this is by students as well, thinking, oh yeah, well I'll use social media because it's free, and how are you going to advertise it? Oh well, I'll use social media. Well, that doesn't mean anything, does it? Because how many people actually buy things off social media? How many people see an advert and then go and buy something? I've never bought something that I saw that I didn't already want. Can be hard to look professional, open to abuse from customers and things, physical, like actually getting in touch and going mental about things. Okay, what about m-commerce then? Now, this is something which is brand new. This is one of the newest things on the spec. It's been on for a little while now, but it's still one of the newest things. The use of wireless handheld devices such as mobile phones to conduct commercial transactions online. Now, what factors have resulted in m-commerce? It's because of this. Everybody's got a phone on them all the time, haven't they? I've got one on me now. What's the first thing you do when you get up? The last thing you do at night usually is look at a phone and try and do it. It's taking over people's lives, but massive opportunities for business. When we talk about e-commerce, most of you will interact with businesses through your mobile phone. So the way we talk about that is m-commerce. So I think they're becoming interchangeable, those two words at this minute in time now. E-commerce and m-commerce are going to become just one thing, because you've got to assume that most people are interacting with your brand through a mobile phone. Why does that matter? Well, it matters for a number of reasons, but it's opportunities that you can do with the mobile phone. Lots of more interactive stuff that you might not be able to do with just a normal. Are people going to get out a laptop and do something, or are they going to just whip out the phone for 5 minutes and have a quick Google? Yeah, they'll probably do that. So you can sort of change your expectations and expect less or more from your consumer based on that. But it also gives you a massive opportunity to be able to say, right, well, okay, I'm still going to have contact with my customers everywhere they are. I know they're going to have a mobile phone on them. What about other things we can do? What about sending text messages to them at certain times? Domino's do it brilliantly. They send text messages out at certain times at like 4 o'clock on a Friday night saying, have you finished, what are you doing for your tea or your dinner or wherever you're from, your evening meal? Have you thought about Domino's? And people will do that. So, and that's something brilliant, knowing that everybody's got a computer, everybody's got their own personal computer in their pocket, and that they will be able to interact with your brand everywhere you are. is really, really good. And you can do apps and things like that, can't you? So lots of benefits for stakeholders in terms of this. You've got benefits for your suppliers, more likely to have a repeat custom because people have that connection to the brand because they just have to go in the pocket and we might have an app that you can buy from the Amazon app, for example. Am I going to go to? I don't have any apps for any other big companies, but I do have the Amazon app because it's easier than other ones. So good for suppliers because it means that more likely for me to get repeat custom and things like that, and the other ones as well, things like when we're talking about employees wanting what's it called, wanting security of the jobs. The more that we enable people to access the brand, enable people to access the stuff that we sell, the easier it is to sell it, and therefore the more secure our jobs become. So can you see how we do it? We just have to think about what are the aims of the stakeholders and how does this help or hinder them. The only last thing I wanted to talk to you about before we start having a look at the sort of assessment that we're going to talk about today, because there isn't really loads to talk about in terms of this, so we're nearly done. Is showrooming. Okay, so showrooming, this occurs when customers actually visit a shop to look at a product physically before going online to buy a product with a cheaper retailer. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is the main issue with the high street at the minute. This is what people are using it for. This is what I use it for, and I bet this is what you use it for as well to a large extent. Go into a shop, and then you go on your phone and have a look if it's a reasonable price. Well, the problem with that is high street shops have a hell of a lot more fixed costs than e-tailers do. No, I'm not saying that as a whole. There could be big ones. I mean, Amazon's stuff could be absolutely huge. Their actual fixed costs will be crazy, but the amount of potential revenue they're making is crazy as well, isn't it? So it's sort of invest big and get big kind of thing. But in terms of the other ones, the sort of normal brick and mortar stores, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that people do this, and I do it as well because you're just looking for what the customers want. We want the best price, the cheapest price available for the best quality. So we're going to do this. This is in our kind of in our stakeholder manifesto of what customers want. This is what's killing them though. So how can a business overcome this challenge? And this is what I want you guys to be thinking about, because you are going to be working in businesses that you're going to have exactly this real issue, and this might be the difference between you getting a promotion or getting sacked, in terms of like being made redundant because they don't need you anymore. So we need to come up with ways. I think the convenience aspect of it really needs to be focused on. I think the experience aspect really needs to be focused on. Look, if you go into the Apple store, it's an experience. It makes you feel good about yourself. You think, oh, this is good. What else can we do? Little free things. Having people who actually know what they're doing. Having repair places on site. Other reasons to get people in the shop. Look at what Game are doing. Game have got their own sort of gaming PC section now called Belong, and that's like an inline sort of an indoor gaming arena with about 20 PCs, all loads of different things to get people in. And the brilliance of that is that you are giving people access to games, and they will probably buy snacks and drinks and stuff as well while they're there and pay for the time actually in the arena. But while they're there, they might think, oh, I'll get some Xbox points, or I'll pick up that game when I'm at Belong later, or whatever it is. You're getting people to go into the store, you're getting people to the high street, which is a brilliant idea, but more companies need to be thinking about these sort of potential revenue streams, because just focusing on classical selling of products. Cat's here again. Come on. Good, that, isn't it? Isn't going to work. Okay, so how do we overcome it? I think the experience type of thing. I think the making it more into an experience will really, really help. So one thing here, it says complete the spider diagram, and this is in your book, considering the following. Now I want you to have a look. I want you to spend some time with this one and get the stakeholders down. So let's just have a little recap of stakeholders, who they are. We've got customers, we've got suppliers, we've got government, we've got local community, we've got employees, we've got managers, we've got owners, we've got shareholders, we've got, is there anyone else? Customers, we've got fans, media. Like all of them can be stakeholders, because it depends on what the situation is in your business, doesn't it? So you need to be specific to it. Now it says evaluate the impact on stakeholders. So you go into your exam and you get a question that says evaluate the importance of e-tailing or m-commerce. Let's do m-commerce. Evaluate the importance of m-commerce to stakeholders. There you go. And they give you, let's say it's a 12-mark question, something like that. Now, you're going to have to jump straight away, because you're not going to have time to think about it. You're going to have to jump straight away into the exam technique, which is, what does the stakeholder want? How are we achieving that? How are we sort of giving them what they want? How are we satisfying that need? And also, what does it mean for the business? The significance, remember the significance. I know I say it daily, but it's important. So the significance to the business, because if we're evaluating, that's AO4, which means that we need to be showing significance. We need to be talking about big businesses versus small businesses. So if I was to give you a really broad question like that, evaluate the importance of m-commerce to businesses, my first question as a student would be, well, does he mean big businesses, or does he mean small businesses? Or does he mean new businesses, or does he mean well-established businesses? Or does he mean companies with a big market share or with a small market share? Whatever it is that you're talking about, you need to put it in context for me and tell me the significance to those people. So it says state the stakeholder. So we've got it. Let's say we're talking about customers, all right? Select a new form of technology, e-tailing, digital marketing, social media, m-commerce. We'll talk about, this one's evaluate the impact on stakeholders. It's very broad, but let's say we're talking about m-commerce. Let's use m-commerce. So discuss the impact, positive or negative, and evaluate the level of impact, the significance to the specific thing. So customers, is it important for them? Well, yeah, it is. And is it a positive or negative? Well, it's a positive, isn't it? Because it's open 24 hours a day. It means it's a lot more accessible to you. It means that you can find whatever you want anywhere where you are. You just go onto Amazon or whatever and you just pop in a thing. You can get it sent straight to your house. Really convenient, really, really good for you. Evaluate the level of impact. Well, for a sort of, the level of impact on customers is going to be massive, isn't it? In the sense that it's going to be big for, in terms of it, from the customer's perspective, it's massive because of the convenience and things like that. It makes it much more usable and makes it much more likely that you're actually going to use that. So it's going to be big for them. But from the company's perspective, it could be the difference between you actually getting a customer base or not. So if you have an m-commerce thing and you're a small business, it could be massive. It could be really detrimental or really positive to you. So you could say, well, it has a massive, significant impact on small businesses because it allows them to compete with big businesses. And it also allows them to have that ability to access global niche markets that they would never have had that opportunity to. Will you be able to, we talked about the other day about big businesses sort of using destroyer pricing and things like that, which remember we said is a no-no. But you might not be able to compete on price because they've got these big things. But if you've got a really good social media presence, you've got a really good commerce sort of presence, an ability to interact with this brand, there is no reason why you can't go toe to toe with these big companies, because one thing that you can do is you can give a personal touch, you can give a personal experience. So evaluate the level of impact. It could be huge, couldn't it? All right, and that's what you need to do. As I said, the more marks that you have, the more stakeholders that I would include in the question. That's the best way of doing it. So if you're thinking it's going to be AO1, AO3, AO4 for this one, because we haven't specifically asked for anything to have the AO2 marks, you should always be putting context in it because of your AO4. Always relaying it to a situation or a type of business. Okay, are we happy with that? I hope you're happy with that. Let's have a look at an assignment and assessment. So we're gonna have a little talk through it, and we're gonna try and answer it together to an extent. Okay, so let's have a look. So this is the assessment. It says, John Harrison started up his new business selling vinyl records in Preston a year ago. Due to his limited capital, John spent nothing on any promotional activities. Following a slow start, sales have begun to increase. John believes this is due to the fact he spotted a niche in the market and word of mouth has spread in the area. Noticing the success, John's friend Paul Starr has offered to open a franchise in Burnley in the conditions that the business begins to spend more finance on promotional activities. John has insisted that the business doesn't require any marketing as the business is so niche. Additionally, he doesn't feel that the spend will generate enough sales. Frustrated by this, Paul began to research various marketing methods for the business and has identified social media as possible avenue for marketing and the business. He has assured John that social media provides the business with great, endless opportunities for marketing. John is currently weighing up the idea. So we've got a new business. Let's just break this down. Let's break this case study down a little bit. Brand new business, niche business because they're doing vinyls, and we've got a person who is a stakeholder in terms of like a franchisee, in terms of someone who wants to buy a franchise from this guy. Remember, we haven't mentioned franchises on the stream, but franchises are when people will buy a license to use the company name or the company way of doing things. So, for example, a lot of McDonald's are franchises. There are company-owned ones, but there are a lot of people who actually buy buy access to the McDonald's name. I'm not going to go into loads of detail about it now because we've already covered it in class, but I will do another video on it eventually anyway, so you just go to the franchise video when it's up if you want to learn a little bit more about franchises. So the important thing to remember here is to what extent do you agree? So to what extent we've got an AO4, do you agree with Paul? Right, we must have some AO2 because we're talking about Paul and we're talking about the situation. So we've got AO4, we've got AO2. That social media provides great, endless opportunities for marketing the business. Okay, so we could say the potential we could be AO1 all the way to AO4. This could be AO1, AO2, AO3, AO4, couldn't it? It could be. But for this one, let's just say it is. Let's try and get a little bit of each in there because it's a 10 marker. There could potentially be a few marks for each one because we've got the AO4 because of the extent. We've got the Paul, which is an AO2, sorry. We've got the AO1 because of social media, and we've got AO3 because we're trying to explain the situation. Potentially. I mean, you could also have... let's not get into this. It doesn't matter, but... essentially, for this one, I'd be looking at definitely adding that AO4 in, okay? So, great, endless opportunities for marketing the business. What I would be doing with this, how I would answer this, first of all, I would give a definition of social media. I would give it, just explain what it is. It's a difficult one. I bet it would be difficult for you to do it. If you don't know it, have a look on the internet. Investopedia and places like that, shoot it to you. Have a look at their definition and just, go off that. If you were to do an answer for this, so once you've done your definition, I will be looking at your first thing to be looking at positive. So to what extent do you agree? So we've got to look in, we agree. So the first one's got to be agree, hasn't it? Well, so we agree that there's great, endless opportunities for marketing the business, and we need to look at the situation. So I would agree that having such a niche business as this, it would be really good for him to get online because he would be able to access really, really specific market segments, wouldn't he? In terms of social media, he could create a page that would attract, and he's talked about word of mouth. Well, you could use that word of mouth, but it would be online word of mouth, wouldn't it? It'd be friends talking to friends who were into really niche things, could create a page and could sort of potentially have a really sort of close-knit community and use that community feel as well to be able to compete with bigger companies. So I think it would be particularly significant for him because of the situation he's in, because he's a small business and because it is one that is looking to grow, but it's a really niche market. All right. What about the negatives of that then? What about, no, it hasn't. No, it's not a great endless opportunities. You could say, well, it isn't great endless opportunities because it's so difficult to make your mark competing against all the other social media. It would be better to use something more classical, like probably not TV adverts or radio adverts. So you're probably looking at below the line stuff rather than above the line stuff because it's so niche. But you could argue that, look, probably better doing some below the line stuff. Do some PR. Get the name out there because you're bringing vinyl back, or find out if there's any companies that you could maybe do cross promotional stuff with to get people in store, celebrities who are launching something in the local area, bands that are playing. Maybe you could get them into store and things like that. That would be all below the line. Sort of thing. It would be more effective for this kind of market, and it would be particularly significant to this market because it would get people to come into the store, have a look at the store, people who wouldn't usually be in that store, and you could do things with it regularly, couldn't you? So any suggestion that you've got. What we need to do though is when we've said the positives and negatives of this situation, because remember it's a 10 marker. So if you've said confidently, you've explained yourself in terms of whether you think it's significant for the business or not, what's your suggestion for it. If you've done that 2 or 3 times, then you're good to go as long as you've given enough detail. and your conclusion. Okay, so and the conclusion has to be whether you think it is a great endless opportunities. Do you think it's overall positive or overall negative? Okay. Don't forget the significance to the business, though. Keep relaying it back, especially because it mentions with Paul on this one. So we know there's AO2. There will be specific marks for the AO2, but you should be doing it with AO4 anyway. Okay. Okay, ladies and gents. Well, that is new technology. You've got a couple of things in your pack, and you've got a little bit of homework to do in the sense that you've got to have a look at that video that I showed you right at the start. I'm going to put it in the comments thing. I'm going to put it in the description. I know you won't have access to this because it takes a little bit of time for this to go back up later on in the day. So you've got that, and you've also got. I'm going to put the panorama thing up about Amazon as well. If you want to have a little look and do a bit of revision on that, it's a really, really good one. If I can find it, I don't know if I can find that on YouTube. I might be able to find it somewhere else. I'm sure it might be recently, especially because of this lockdown and that. So we are currently having a look at. We've currently had a look at market. Sort of that we finished off that marketing section now, haven't we? So in terms of your books, all's booklets should be complete now. We're going to be going over old stuff. We're going to be going over some old stuff to do revision. That doesn't mean you can relax. That doesn't mean that's it. That doesn't mean that you can just stop doing it. It's more important now that we make sure we crystallize everything, because this is a fantastic opportunity. We would never have the opportunity to do this in class. We just never have the time. So let's use it effectively. Let's use this time to be able to spend some time on revision, spend some time on things like that, whilst we have the opportunity, because we just don't know what's going to happen. We could go back. You know, are we going to go back this academic year? We don't know. Are we going to go back next academic year? Well, either way, you guys watching now, you will have exams next year, either way. So if you screw yourself over in the future by not doing the work now, then congratulations. You know, you're really going to be disadvantaged. You guys need to really think about the importance of doing work now, of going over stuff, of spending time with me, you know, that you can. And discussing things as much as you can. Okay, now we're going to have a little look at the news, as we always do. Let's have a little look at sort of the news and what's going on. I don't want me to sound really depressing, but there's some really depressing stuff today, isn't there? Let's have a look. So we've got morning update for this one. Ooh, let's have a look at this one. This could be an interesting one. So Google reveals travel habits during the pandemic. It says, Google is to publicly track people's movements over the course of the coronavirus pandemic. The tech firm will publish its details of different types of places people go into a country-by-country basis in the UK. County by county, sorry, as well as similar data for 130 other countries. The plan is to issue a regular updates with figures referring back to the activity 2 or 3 days prior. The company has promised that individuals' privacies will be preserved. That's creepy, isn't it? That is creepy. So Google are going to start telling the government and the police what you're doing, where you're going. I know in some respects we should be doing. We people do need to be watched if they can't be trusted. I remember Boris Johnson said, didn't he, when this was all started, that he didn't think they were going to have to close pubs because people were sensible enough to do it. Well, they're not, are they? People are idiots. We wouldn't be in this state if people weren't morons. And maybe we need to be a little bit more harsh on these people who are completely flouting not only government, regulations and stuff like that, but come on, it's sensible. They're trying to save lives. People are dying. This is serious. It's not a joke. I don't know if I hope you've not come into contact with anyone, or family and friends have not come into contact with anyone who's lost anyone yet, but I have. I've already come into contact with people who've lost people. I've not directly lost anyone, and I hope I don't, and I hope you don't, but I do know people who've lost people now. And that's crazy, isn't it? You think like, wow, this is serious. So, stuff them. If people need to be bloody, arrested or whatever to keep them inside, well, yeah, let's do it, because they don't deserve it. They don't deserve the freedom to just do whatever they want. They gave them that up, and they decided they were going to be morons. Anyway, aside from all that. They've done that clap for carers thing again, isn't there? Interestingly enough, I think what would probably be more efficient for the government to do would, instead of giving them a clap would be some personal protective equipment, which is what they've been requiring, would probably be more applicable to the NHS rather than clapping them, or maybe a pay increase. That would actually be, I think that would be helpful when they've had to keep going on strike and things like that. So not to put the cynical head on it, but it's really nice people want to do something nice for the NHS, but I think we're worrying less about clapping them and more about actually making a physical difference to them, making sure they don't get ill, making sure that they actually get stuff. So I'll leave it to you to make your own decisions on that. But just gonna have a look at the business news. Let's have a look. Emergency loans for the firms revamped after criticism. It says firms have made more than 130 loan inquiries, but fewer than 1,000 have been approved. Interesting. Oh, let's have a look at this one. So look at. There's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. The emergency loan scheme was providing to this. The Treasury said it has received more than 130 loan inquiries from firms, but fewer than 1,000 have been approved. Great. That's brilliant, that, isn't it? So these companies that are going under, we talked about cash flow. I know that we keep going on about it at the minute, but this is why companies are failing. And then the Chancellor comes on and goes, oh yeah, we're going to give everyone loads of money. The banks have stakeholders. The banks have shareholders to consider. Yes, at the end of the day, we're in lockdown and this is a crazy time, but you can't underestimate the importance of businesses and looking after their stakeholders. They won't just do it. They won't just go, oh yeah, well, it's all right. Let's put our stakeholders at risk because we want to do this. It's insane. Sainsbury's to ease shopping item restrictions. Supermarket list limits on some of the products, but asks household to spend only one adult to do the shopping. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, as I said, I went shopping. I went shopping to Sainsbury's actually. They've not thought about it. Morrison's and that are doing something really good. I have to big shout out to Morrison's for doing this. Mr. Business endorsed Morrison's. If you want to send me any free stuff, feel free. But they were stopping more than like one person at once going in the shop. I think it's a brilliant idea. Yeah, force people's hands. This is what I'm talking about. But with Sainsbury's, there was some woman in there with 2 kids. Which, fair play to the woman, like, it's not her fault that she's got 2 kids. It's not her fault that she's having to, maybe she wasn't able to get any sort of thingy for them that day, care for them or whatever. But it's a complete lack of thought for other people when the kids are coughing the guts up. I'm thinking, I've got a 1-year-old at home. I can't afford to get coronavirus. That's why I'm stuck in this house. So it's important to me that if I go shopping, I was just walking around. I actually gave myself a really bad headache because I was walking around going... And I'm just walking around holding my breath because what else can you do? It's insane. So Sainsbury's said that they would also remain in place on butter, cheese, and some kind. I didn't know that they were stopping people getting cheese. What are we gonna do? We can't get our cheese. Oh no. Final one for today. Let's have a look. What does it mean if I've been furloughed? This is one that I think it might be important to you. So let's have a little look at this one. I don't know if any of you have been impacted by this, but let's have a little look. So what does it mean if you've been furloughed? Furloughed is an American term. I've not really used it much in our thing, but it's definitely something that there's been. So until recently, many people in the UK had never heard of it. But the impacts of coronavirus on the economy means that over the next few months, millions of workers will rely on the scheme. Questions directed at Chancellor Rishi Sunak have been asked on social media under the hashtag #AskRishi. Hashtag #AskRishi. Let's inundate them with stuff. Let's ask him really interesting stuff. Where do you buy your ties? What's your favourite cologne? Who would win in a fight? A beaver or a yak? But what are the impacts of coronavirus on the economy? It says, furloughing is designed to support firms that have been badly hit by coronavirus and to prevent mass unemployment. It will temporarily help pay wages of people who can't do their jobs and to help companies that retain them. Many of us accepted or started jobs after the 28th of Feb. We've been left high and dry. My new employment wants to furlough me but can't. Allow us to present evidence we had a job offer or a job starting. Many of us face financial ruin. Will you help us? And did he respond? Probably not. Because we're living in mental times. This is insane, isn't it? But businesses can claim up to 80% of their employees' wages from the government. My point with this, and from a business's perspective, and I'm not looking at my my sensitive member of the UK's thinking on this, but what the hell are we going to do when this is all over in terms of the economy? Because this money's going to have to come from somewhere. What are we going to do? Put taxes up? Well, we've just spent ages trying to get out of this deficit, and we're going to absolutely smash it to bits. And I have to say this, this must be serious because the Conservative government are spending so much money. And they would never do this if they didn't physically have to, because they are known for trying to deal with the deficit and trying to, austerity and stuff. They've been known a lot as the austerity party. And I don't want to get political with you. Purely on a business analyst role here. And nothing to do with, the ethics or my own views on them or anything like that. It doesn't matter. But it does matter to see this must be serious. This must be getting very serious because the Conservatives are willing to spend money. A lot of money, inordinate amounts of money, crazy amounts of money. And I don't know what we're going to do on the other side of this, but hopefully, let's just clap people and hope it all works. What was that one? It says here. We'll finish with this one. Or should we finish with this one? The coronavirus rattles the smartphone industry, or should we have 4 ways the coronavirus has hit the UK economy? Let's have a look at this one. A quick walk down a deserted high street or video chat with friends and family is a reminder of currently anything is business as usual. Business as normal, yeah. Almost half of companies were suffering before the lockdown. Ah, right. Suffering before the lockdown. This is an interesting one, isn't it? This is what we need to see. Almost half of businesses have lower turnover, lower than normal, or higher than normal. I wonder who that is. I bet you could tell me. It's probably supermarkets, isn't it? Of the almost 4,000 companies the ONS spoke to, Office of National Statistics, by the way, 45% said the takings were substantially below normal between 9th and 22nd of March, almost all attributed to the fallout from COVID-19. COVID-19 as well, why have they called it that? It's depressing. It sounds like something that's off like a James Bond movie. Over a quarter of firms were intending to lay off staff temporarily. Staff have to work from home. Staff are encouraged to work from home, decrease working hours, reducing staff. And companies are not doing this to be horrible. Companies are just doing it to maintain cash flow. That's all they're doing it for. The only reason that they're doing it is that it's not because they're trying to do you over or trying to get rid of you or anything like that. It's just sensible business. You need to retrench. You need loads and loads of coins to have if you die halfway through the level. This is what they're doing. There is a pitfall here. 10%. Pet food, paracetamol, rice, nappies, tin food. This is just supply and demand, essentially. Our people have, as the demand for hand sanitizer, soap and loo rolls soared, so did concerns about excessive price markups. The Competition and Markets Authority even set up a coronavirus task force to deter price gouging. Many firms we've got a smaller amount, but it's still, that's good because we've still got do not export or import as quite significant ones from here. That's positive, isn't it? And it says the ONS survey doesn't reveal the extent of the disruption. It may just be a slight delay. However, given today's highly integrated global, and I hope you are staying well. Remember, this could go on indefinitely, so please make sure that you are completing your work, sending me any questions, commenting, liking, subscribing, watching lots of Mr. Businessman if you're bored, but make sure that you're here at 10 o'clock on Monday morning ready for the next stream. And I will see you all then. All right? Peace.